What's up, Soul Family? My bad for the interruption. My stream had just went out, so I had to restart. But um, I got it situated. I got it figured out. So we're right back at it. You know what I'm saying? Technical difficulties ain't stopping nothing. You know what I'm saying? Minor setback for a major comeback. So that's what we on today. But I'll kind of sum up where I was before, and then where I'm gonna go from there. Let's see. I had a few notes, so let's see. I'm gonna just look at them real fast. Okay. I had that set up. Okay. So where I kind of left off is explaining how cycles work, explaining the spiral path of reaching your God self or your perfect expression um, through divine or sacred math. That's the word I'm looking for. And correlating, and also you can see like this is the path. This is the spiral path that plants grow. Plants grow in a spiral motion, just like this until they reach a perfect, you know what I'm saying, still or center point, which is their point of perfection or their perfect expression or their God expression. This is represented in a double helix manner in the cycles of the seasons and the cycles of our precession around the equinox. Therefore, giving us the age of Pisces, the age of Aquarius, and after the age of Aquarius is going to be the age of Capricorn, and so forth and so on. And in this cycle path, um, there is basically a step of evolution that needs to be took from the juncture point of each um, ending point for each age. So basically, even like the in the book, The Law of One, Ra describes this as the harvest. You know what I'm saying? Harvest isn't too good of a word because harvest like implies that someone's like harvesting you or like, you know what I'm saying, selecting you. Uh, but this harvest is really a like a selection, like how I imagine is like an army general selecting which soldiers for which regiment. You know what I'm saying? Like you gonna be Navy, you gonna be Army and whatever, Coast Guard or whatever. But this selection isn't coming from outside of yourself. Like no one is selecting you. Like for instance, like the right hand path of the age of uh, like each path has a theme. Like so, the age of Pisces the theme there was belief. So like belief, either you had faith in God, the spiritual light, your God self. You had faith in spirit or you had faith in the world. You know what I'm saying? You put your belief into the world and whatnot. And now that we're moving out of that and we're moving into the age of knowing, the age of information, the age of light, um, we're moving into like the visual manifestation of the belief of either the world and or the spirit, basically. So those who are of the world have a lot of means of communication of communicating information of being a part of and being in the pool, the infinite pool of information of the world. Yet now on the right hand path, there are a new rise of Christ figures, a new rise of beings of light, beings of love, beings of enlightenment, who are uncovering the information or the light of the soul. Uh, this in the tree of life would be the light of Yesod. Yesod is represented by the moon, which is like the hidden, the subconscious, um, and the you know what I'm saying, things of this nature, things that are hidden. Usually, this would be represented as like the subconscious mind, but as you all know, in the tree of life, Malkuth is like literally this. Malkuth is literally this, like the physical world, the worldly light, the world of um, the false light, basically. But in relation to Malkuth, Yesod is the spiritual world or your inner world. That's another translation for the illustration of Yesod being represented as the moon. That's also the inner, the hidden. You know what I'm saying? What's behind the scenes. So as those on the path, the right hand of a path, the right hand path of the age of Aquarius, the age of information, or the age of light, because you know what I'm saying, when you get a bright idea, you know what I'm saying, bright idea, that's kind of like, you know what I'm saying, like light. Like when you get a good idea, you've been enlightened. You know what I'm saying? In cartoons, when you get a spontaneous idea, a light bulb appears above your head. You know what I'm saying? You got bright ideas. You know what I'm saying? These all reflect the correlation of information, knowledge, wisdom with light. Even in the Law of One, Raw channelings, Raw described the fourth dimension as the dimension of love, and the fifth dimension as the dimension of light. We're well within the realm of the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is like mental constructs. As a fourth dimension, as a plane of existence, is basically like mental constructs. This is where space time is apparent. This is the realm of like dark magic. This is where dark magic can happen. You know what I'm saying? And dark magic isn't bad magic. It's just magic that's working behind the scenes. An example of an aspect of dark magic is the law of attraction. You're basically in the realm of possibility, probability, or what's powering space time to continue to unfold in its continuous linear movement. You're basically tapping into the behind the scenes, the dark aspect, the behind the scenes aspect, and you're causing things, you're causing change in reality. That's magic. Like I like to say that feminine magic is magic that works behind the scenes, and masculine magic is basically like that hustle mentality that I'm gonna get to a bag, getting it out the mud. You know what I'm saying? That takes a form of genius. That takes a form of intelligence, of ingenuity, of causing change in the physical reality. That's the masculine aspect of magic. You know what I'm saying? But no one just calls it magic. That's just called getting it out the mud, getting it out the dirt. That's just called turning shit to sugar. But really, that's a form of magic. That's alchemy, turning shit to sugar. You know what I'm saying? So with that in mind, dark magic isn't all bad. You know what I'm saying? It's just made to be bad because most people are ignorant of it. And speaking of ignorance, those on the left hand path of the age of Aquarius who cling to the physical world are going to go absolutely, it's going to be undeniable for them that the right hand path exists. The path of spiritual awareness, spiritual perception, perceiving. Remember, this is the age of information, the age of light, perceiving not the physical light, but the spiritual light, the subjective light. Let me stand up and turn this light up real fast. Here we go. Yeah, it's motion sensor, and I'm in the back, so yeah. Let me adjust this real fast. So, as I was saying, as I was talking about, like people who are on the left-hand path of delving into the endlessness of the physical world. You know what I'm saying? And this is going to become it's going to become endless, and it's going to become almost impossible. In coming decades, it's going to be almost impossible to pull yourself from the left-hand path and enter to the right-hand path. That's my prediction because of Web3, metaverse, video games are literally becoming almost indistinguishable from real life. So those who want to dive deep into the physical world are going to have one hell of a time. But one thing is this? It's going to be a mighty big ass distraction as we move into this age of light. But what's going to happen is what's happening actually is, and this Bobby Hemmett has been talking about this for many years. When he says, especially for Black people, that there's nothing left for us here on the physical plane of existence. There's nothing left for us. Our only Brother Panic actually has a video of, and it's like spirituality is your only option now. Like that's it for you niggas. Like that's it. Because this physical world, like us as a collective trying to build shit physically, us trying to do something in the physical world, us trying to solve a problem or try to get a leverage in this physical matrix, that shit's over with. There is nothing left for us here. We're moving into a higher, we're moving into, let me show you guys. And this is reflected in my book, Dark Light Consciousness by Edward Bruce Bynum. Amazing fucking book. Amazing book. I'm gonna try to stop cussing. But he even describes light as a fifth dimensional force. He derives this as an evolution from Einstein's theory of relativity, where Einstein describes space-time or gravity, because really gravity is a function of the warping of space-time. Einstein describes this as a function of the fourth dimension. Einstein introduced multidimensionality to the fundamental materialist mind of the science back then, even some today. But the intuition of Bruce Bynum and string theorists and quantum mechanics is that light is actually a higher enfold of reality, or it resides on a higher plane of existence, on a higher vibration, on the fifth dimension. And guess what age we're moving into? The age of information, the age of Aquarius. Well, the age of Aquarius is what it's called, but it can also be nicknamed the age of information. And as I said earlier, information is tied in with light very closely. You know what I'm saying? You get a bright idea, the light bulb will go your head. You could also say that the age of information is the age of light. So we're moving into the fifth dimension. So by just that logic alone, it's clear that it's pointless for us to try to make a movement, like to do anything on the physical plane. There's nothing left for us here. The only option now is spiritual enlightenment, spiritual attainment, yoga. And I'm not talking about the physical yoga, doing poses and downward dogs and shit. I'm talking about the yoga of union with God, because that's basically what it means. Yoga yoga originated in Kemet in ancient Egypt. It was called Sema Tawi, or Smai Tawi, I think it's called. Like I call it Sema Tawi. It could be either way. But basically, Sema Tawi is basically the Egyptian term for yoga. And breaking down the term Sema Tawi basically means the union of lower was actually the higher part of Egypt. So the unification of lower and upper Egypt. But the implication here is that yoga, the act of yoga, is the union of your higher and your lower self, or union with God. In yoga is a Hindu term or something like that, or Sanskrit term, which basically means yoke or link. So that's the literal translation of yoga, and the implication is to link back to source consciousness. So through yoga, through basically union with your divine essence, by basically tuning into your inner universe and realizing your endlessness, realizing your I am, or your Ketheric consciousness on the tree of life, if you wanted to get a reference. Um, let me see. By tapping in with your I am presence and the endlessness of your being, you can tap into the spiritual light, or the light of God, basically. And you can step onto the right hand path of the age of Aquarius, and you could basically move to a higher unfold of reality. But it's pointless for us as a people, as Black people, to want to fight for anything on this plane, given that we're moving, our evolution is inevitable. The Bible says that, and I've found this true in my own life, just on a micro scale, but even on a macro scale, for us as a race, this applies true when it says that the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. You know what I'm saying? What basically that is stating is like, in the white man's world, or in the matrix of our modern world, you can't lie. Black people was last, dead last. We was put dead last, and we was categorized in the dead last. But as we move into this new cycle, we shall be the first ones to lead this. So to lead this new revolution of consciousness, this new existence for humanity as a whole, this new ascension for the earth and her collective. So with that in mind, it's pointless for us to strive for anything. Black Lives Matter, leave that shit in the past. Trying to get like an economic plan together. That all is like, as a collective, I say. If that's what you want to do personally, then be my guest. As a collective, as like, this is something we need to do, that's only going to be a distraction from the work that we actually need to do, which is uncovering, moving into the yin realm, the spiritual world, and finding our spiritual essence, our spiritual light, and creating a new world from the inside out instead of from the outside in. I'll explain it like this, and this will make it quite simple for anyone to understand. So basically, how the death cycle works is basically like a breath. Consciousness is a breathing, living, breathing thing. Your awareness is light. That's why the Bible says God is light. Let's see. That's terrible. Hold on. So if we're made in the image of God, right, or the image of the universe, really the universe is made in our image. If you want to actually put it more correctly, right? Because outer space reflects inner space. So by analyzing yourself, your own inner universe, the first thing you're going to encounter when you want to understand the the first principle of yoga is basically to empty your mind and connect with your breath. That's the most elementary form of union or linking back to the source, union with source. That's your breath. So by understanding the cycle of your breath, you can understand the cycle of your consciousness, because your consciousness is God, and therefore you're made in God's image, and the universe is made in God's image. Therefore, you can understand reality just off understanding yourself. A uh, uh, an ancient Egyptian proverb I just read today in my book Egyptian Yoga is, the basis of all knowledge is self knowledge, or knowledge is the basis of all true knowledge. Because by understanding yourself, you understand nature, and you understand your inner universe and the universe outside of yourself. Um, but back to the point. So I'll explain basically death, and why it's not important for us as Black people to build anything or to worry about anything physical, because this shit is dead. So basically, this would be like the death point, right? The out breath, the withering process. And this would, you know what I'm saying? This is the rebirth point. There is no death, it's just rebirth, or channeling your energy into a new dimension, basically. Um, we're all multidimensional travelers, on one way or the other. It's just the pace at which certain ones travel through the canal of death into a new dimension, into a higher unfold of reality along the spiral path of self actualization. The goal is to die while you're alive. I say fuck just dying while you're alive, because like the Christian idea is like you got to be born again, and like the implication is that that's like a one-time thing. I say die every day. I die every day. You know what I'm saying? Right now I'm interacting with my personality. I'm very lively with my personality. But once I'm off this and I go back to my room, I'm going to allow I'm allow my ego to rest. I'm going to allow my ego to die so I can enter into basically a new cycle for myself. And I'm going to do that every day because I want my inner cycles to reflect the perfection of the outer cycles, or the perfection I see out in nature. And that is only a reflection of the cycles of our inner world. But basically, why we as a people don't need to worry about anything. Let's say this is the fifth dimension, or the dimension of light, as I explained, that's what we're moving into. We have the fifth dimension that we're moving into, and this is the physical world, right? You know, why it's important for us to just forget everything and not strive for anything, because we've just, even if you look at our history, we've done everything that we could have done. We did everything that needed to be done on the physical plane. But as we move through this transition point, where, okay, so let me explain it like this. Even in the mythology, even in like Greek mythology, right? When you die, you cross the river Styx, or and that is traditionally portrayed as a canal, as a tight canal. And the divine correspondence in the physical world is like, when you're born physically, you go through the vagina, you go through the birth canal out into the world. It looks literally just like this, because the womb, and you travel through, and you're out, out into the physical world. Basically, this process of renewal, rebirth, the phoenix rising through the ashes, is a process of death, because you're releasing everything of the last world to enter into a new dimension. Like, when you're going through an ego death, when you're going through a spiritual transformation, when you're on the lower, when you're like just starting off, like you have major ego deaths. Once you get to the upper echelon of self-actualization, you learn how to die every day. You learn how to let your ego rest. You learn how to be a part of the cycles. You learn how to let your ego rest, not cling on to anything that you knew in the past, to basically learn something else. The fool, I heard this wisdom a while ago, I forgot who said it, but the fool is wise because he knows that he knows nothing. And when you know nothing, you have everything to learn. You can learn anything. There's everything to gain if you know nothing. Bobby Hammond even says it, like, if you know one book, you know none. You know what I'm saying? Like, so basically, you have to make your consciousness new again by going through the the birth canal, or basically leaving everything of the old world back in the old fucking world so you can move into the new world. That's why for Black people, since the first shall be last and the last shall be first, since we're going to be spearheading this new evolution of humanity, it's important that we leave everything of this three-dimensional world, all of the ideas of trying to build something, trying to do something, trying to secure a better future for us as a collective is over with. We all, and it's a popular saying that we all die alone. This process is a process of self-actualization. This is up to the individual to go through this death process, to go through this rebirth into the fifth dimension. So I hope to see you on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Shit. So that's why it's nothing left for us to build, nothing left for us to do. Yeah. But with that in mind, it's important for us to understand that, like I was saying, that this is an individual process and that you can't lean on nobody else to do the work for you. You know what I'm saying? Every man and woman must learn how to die every day, how to, you know what I'm saying, not let their mind take control of them. And this kind of moves into my next point, or the lesson of us as we move into the age of Aquarius. The specific lesson we need to learn as a collective as we move into the age of Aquarius. Because by knowing the nature of the sign Aquarius, we can get a better understanding of the lesson that we need to learn as of now. And first, by understanding that this is the age of information, the age of light, and light is a fifth dimensional phenomenon. And as we're moving into the fifth dimension, it's important to understand that our outer world is going to start to become way more fluid than ever before. Eventually, things are going to, like, you're going to wake up and it's going to be like a dream. We're moving literally into a dream world, the world of imagination. And what's important to understand about such, just like literally, well, first, just like how your dreams look, like how in your dreams, based off your emotional and mental state, the environment around you instantaneously changes. That's what we're moving into as we ascend to the fifth dimension. So the lesson for us as a collective, as a collective consciousness, based on where we are right now in a more physical world where things don't quite happen instantaneously, but some of my manifestations happen quick as fuck. I can't think about some shit more than 3 times without it like happening, or like I can't think about somebody more than 3 times they don't hit me up with some shit. But I digress. But what's important to understand is that as we move to a lighter frequency, as we move up into into a more fluid realm, a more a realm that looks more like your soul or the realm of your dreams, it's important to understand that with the realm being fluid, it's much more difficult to stay grounded and centered. It would be much harder to stay grounded and centered in that realm just off the fact that at the slightest emotional change, at the slightest mental change, the reality around you is changing. This is where the concept of you going to heaven or hell after you die comes from. Because in this physical world, you could do a whole bunch of fucked up shit. You could think all kinds of fucked up. You could feel all kind of, you know what I'm saying, negative ass emotions. But you could hide yourself pretty well. You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't reflect in your physical reality. If you think you can get away with shit. But as we move into a higher dimension, that shit is going to get reflected to you into your outer reality, and it's going to look just as real as this reality. Therefore, it's going to become much harder for people to, if they're on the left hand path, they have a lot of negativity, to pull themselves from that and enter into the right path of like self-love, divine love, even love of creation, love of cycles, and the light of the soul, the light of God, the light of spiritual awareness, the light of your I am. It's going to be a lot harder to move into that once you're in a higher dimension. Just off the fact that if your internal world is a hell, if you've allowed your mind to run amok, you know what I'm saying? Let your ego mind run amok. And basically, your ego mind is kind of like a dog. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to walk that motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? Sit. When you tell it to sit, you're supposed to sit. You tell it, you know what I'm saying, do all this. But those that let their mind run amok and run all into ignorance, and basically feed into ignorance, fear, all these negative ass emotions, it's going to get reflected out into their reality, and they're going to get lost in their own reality, their own personal matrix of negativity. That's what the theory of when you die, you either go to heaven or hell. It's based off your own consciousness, and it's based off science, just off the fact that your reality is so much more fluid in a higher dimension. That if it's hell in here, it's definitely gonna be hell out there. You feel me? Like I heard a brother Panic was talking about this the other day. It was uh, like if you were like he was talking about like some Norse or like some sort of like society of warriors, and they understood multidimensionality, and they understood uh, the, their immortality, right? Or that there's after death, there's more, basically. So their heaven, basically, since they were warriors, their heaven would be like, okay, we're gonna fight all day, kill each other, come back and feast. And they, in their mind, while they were still alive, created a space for themselves once they died. Like they imagined here in the physical world what their heaven would look like, basically war and feast and all that. And when they went through the gateway and they entered into the fifth dimension, they basically did that in their own personal ancestor realm. And I kind of find that funny because that's really how the fuck it is. But instead of like it being a tribe, well, it would be a tribe, other people that share a similar consciousness to you. You would see them in your reality. But for the most part, this is a personal thing. And based off your the personal spirit you feed into is this what you're going to see in your outer reality. Sorry about that. My ear itch. I just do that with my ear itch. Let me make sure my mic is close. So, with that in mind, that we're moving into a more fluid reality, it's important to understand that based off us coming from the third dimension, a dimension where things don't happen so rapidly, it's important for us to stay grounded as we ascend. So we're not fully into a reality where dreams are literally what our reality is, right? 24/7. We're not fully enveloped into the fifth dimension. Our goal is, while we're still on the path of ascension, while we're still moving along the spiral gateway of ascension, our goal is, while we're still kind of dealing with the third dimension, not consciously, but physically we're dealing with the third dimension, it's important for us to stay grounded and not let our mental and emotional and our ego mind sway us. It's basically like teaching a dog how to do a trick. When you tell your dog to sit, you gotta learn how to tell your ego mind to sit, stop. When you say stop, you know what I'm saying? That's why it's called your monkey mind, your animalistic self, your instinctual self, because it's like an animal. That's why, like, I forgot what it is on the tree of life, but one of the representations or one of the images on the tree of life is like a woman with like a lion, but like a tamed lion. It represents the taming of your lower natures. And this is also represented in the mythology of Heru beating Set. You know what I'm saying? Set basically represents your ego, the mind of egotism. You know what I'm saying? And Heru is basically your higher consciousness or your Christ consciousness. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're moving into. So we're moving into, if you want to know some spirits to embody at this time, a good one would be Heru. Baphomet is definitely a go-to. Work with Baphomet, work with Heru, work with the spirit of the Christ spirit. You can work with some spirit, because all I'm describing is spiritual forces or Neteru, you know what I'm saying? And that's basically just forces, invisible forces of nature. And based off the principles of chaos magic, you could work with anything. You don't have to work with a deity of a specific pantheon. You don't have to work with a deity of a specific religion or anything that's intended. Like, if you wanted to, you could channel the spirit of fucking Goku. Just off the fact that people imagine Goku in their mind, and they imagine Goku fighting Frieza. Goku has a literal existence in a plane, in a higher enfold of reality. Like, Goku is literally fighting someone somewhere on a mental plane. So based off knowing this, like, you can work with spirits, you can work with spirit animals, so you can ascend. And based off of the necessity of us as a collective needing to stay grounded as we ascend, because we don't want to ascend and our ego mind still be all out of whack, and we still be unbalanced, and we still our emotional state isn't in check. You know what I'm saying? That wouldn't be right for us as a collective. So it's important to work with certain spirits so we can get in alignment with our highest ideals, or our highest expression of self, or our exalted, our most actualized God self. So it's important to channel the spirits, if you know how to, you know what I'm saying, work with the spirits of Heru, work with the spirits of Baphomet. You know what I'm saying? You can work with the spirit animal, the turtle, you know what I'm saying? That's slow to the ground, grounded, centered, patient, slow moving, slow, you know what I'm saying? Slow and steady wins the race, you know what I'm saying? And work with these spirits and do more research and come to your own spiritual understanding of where we're moving as a collective, and make your own assessment and do what's best you see fit as we move into the fifth dimension. Let me see if I had anything else written down. Yeah. I suppose that's pretty much it for today. I'll probably do some more videos on this later this week. Just stay tuned. Check out the School of Life University on YouTube. Definitely check me out on Instagram. And if you have any questions, any comments, leave them in the comments. Thumbs up, like, and share the video. I'll catch you all later. Peace out. Or peace inwards.